What would 2024 look like according to NHL 19? That is right, we are back on an older NHL game that was released over 6 years ago. There is no way that was 6 years ago. NHL 19 obviously was one of the better games in the franchise, but how accurate can they predict the next 6 seasons up to current day, which is 2024? So we are going to be going ahead and doing that. We are going to simulate up to 2024, see who wins the awards, see who dominates, see who goes on and wins the Stanley Cup. But first off, we have to go ahead and take a look at the roster around the NHL in 2018. So taking a look at the Edmonton Oilers, man, is this such a different team. We still have Draisaitl and McDavid. I mean, McDavid is 21 years old, the highest rated player in the game at a 94. Draisaitl is only an 88. We still got guys like Clefbaum and Adam Larson here, as well as Andre Sekera, who I mean was like a top 4 D-man at one point. Going through the list, I will go back to Anaheim, as they still have the Mom Killer and Corey Perry and Ryan Getzlaf. Ryan Getzlaf, only 33 years old, so he's 38 in real life. He did retire a few years ago. Arizona still has Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Clayton Keller is still there. He's only 20 years old. Boston obviously still has Bergeron, who's only 33. Pasternak's only an 89 overall. David Krejci still playing in the NHL, as well as the Big Z, 41 years old in NHL 19, 85 overall. We still have Jack Eichel on the Buffalo Sabres at an 88 overall, as well as Jeff Skinner, who's an 85, who now is a member of the Edmonton Oilers, and Sam Reinhart, who fresh off of a Stanley Cup with the Florida Panthers. Calgary still has Johnny Hockey, Mark Giordano's there, Elias Lindholm, Matthew Tkachuk, who's only 20 years old. A very young Tkachuk. Chicago still has their dynasty pair of Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane. Kane being a 91. Toews only an 87 at 30 years of age. Both are still signed for 5 long years at $10.5 million. Artemi Panarin is still a member of the Columbus Blue Jackets, as well as Seth Jones. The Dallas Stars' best 2 players are still Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn, 90 and 89 overall, as well as Alexander Radulov. LA really hasn't changed much. I mean, they do have Ilya Kovalchuk, who's a 35-year-old, 85 overall, so his overall was not even that bad in NHL 19, but obviously he left to go back to the KHL at only a few years coming back to the NHL. I mean, this would have been his first season back on the LA Kings, then I believe he went to Montreal, and then I can't remember where else he went. Shea Weber is still the captain of the Montreal Canadiens at an 87 overall. Max Domi is still on the roster as well. Jonathan Drouin is here. Jesperi Kotkaniemi. The Preds still have that lethal decor. They got Subban, Yossi, Ekholm is there. Take a look. I believe Ryan Ellis is on the roster as well. PK Subban, only 29 years old, so he's 34 in real life. He's been retired for what, 2 years at this point? He retired very early on in his career. I cannot believe it. 88 overall, tied for the best D-man alongside Roman Yossi. Taylor Hall is still on the New Jersey Devils, as well as Will Butcher. I remember when everybody thought he was going to be the next big thing in New Jersey. No Adam Fox or Artemi Panarin on the New York Rangers. Zibanejad is their best player, only 25 years old, so he's pretty young. Ottawa is going to have Thomas Chabot, Chris Tierney. Oh my god, this roster is absolutely horrible. Bobby Ryan. Philly still has their captain and Claude Giroux, as well as Jacob Voracek, who I believe just retired in real life. Pittsburgh still rocking with a younger Crosby, Malkin. Phil Kessel still on the squad, 89 overall, 30 years of age. San Jose has Burns, Carlson, Pavelski, Couture, that same core that they had for many seasons outside of maybe Carlson. The Tampa Bay Lightning still have their captain and Steven Stamkos. Man, 5 years later, Stammer is not a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning. That is sad, but I mean, they're still set up for a long time. Braden Point, only 22 years old. They could be a dynasty in the sim. Toronto still has Johnny T as their best player, tied for the best with Matthews as a 90 overall. Obviously, Austin is still 20 years old. He's also listed as a playmaker, not a sniper. We have a rookie, Elias Pettersson, 87 overall as a rookie. Actually, no, he's 19 years of age, so he's a second-year player, but still, 87 is very high. Brock Besser's up there. Bo Horvat is still on the Canucks. Vegas still has Mark Stone, William Karlsson, Max Pacioretty. They had Patches, I remember that. Shea Theodore is only a 23-year-old D-man. Obviously, Marchessault left in the offseason in real life. Washington still has a prime Alexander Ovechkin, fresh off of a Stanley Cup, 32 years old, 92 overall, as well as Evgeny Kuznetsov, off. John Carlson is there. Nick Backstrom is not retired yet. And for Winnipeg, to be honest, they pretty much have the same players outside of Patrick Laine and Blake Wheeler. Wheeler being a much older player now, and Patrick Laine falling off a cliff. So now that we know the entire NHL in September 15, 2018, we are going to go ahead and simulate up to 2024, see who goes on, dominates the NHL, and see who wins the Stanley Cup year after year. Also, if you guys do enjoy videos like this, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you get notified when I go live or either post a video. Also, if I do sound a little bit weird or sound like I have a pacifier in my mouth, it's because I have a huge ass canker that is absolutely killing me to talk, but we are going to get through this together and hopefully see my Edmonton Oilers win at least one Stanley Cup in this sim. Who knows? Now, at the end of season number 1, oh my god, the Toronto Maple Leafs won 60 goddamn games with John Tavares, followed by the Lightning, who were very good. Washington was up there. Colorado still dominating 5 years ago. San Jose won 44 games, as well as Anaheim. I do not believe my Edmonton Oilers made the playoffs. No, they did not. They were 24th in the entire NHL. Also, see how fast it is to move up and down through these menus? The menus are insanely quicker than they are in NHL 24. That is straight up embarrassing. I could not believe how fast it was to navigate the menu system in this game compared to what it is like in 24, where it feels really, really delayed. Tyler Seguin is going to lead the league in scoring with only 92 points. Wow. Followed by Johnny T, who had 91, Tarasenko, 84, Radulov was up there, Patty Kane had a good year, McKinnon, Mitch Marner was point per game at a 21-year-old, or as a 21-year-old. Patrick Fortnite, Laine, 41 goals, 81 points. Matthews had a decent season himself. Speaking of the goals, Tarasenko will lead with 58 on the season. John Tavares had 53, Seguin 47. Ovi was up there, as well as Patty Kane and Taylor Hall, 43 goals on the year. Also, Connor McDavid simmed like actual trash. I mean, 42 goals, 78 points. For defenseman, Oliver Ekman-Larsson will lead in scoring with only 71. So as you guys can tell, the scoring was way down in 2018 compared to what it is in 24. Morgan Riley had 66, Carlson 57, Drew Doughty was a minus 11, Kevin Shattenkirk had 14 goals and 56 points on the Rangers. If we take a look at goalies, Freddie Anderson will lead with 47 and wins. Vasi at 44, Braden Holtby 41, and for shutouts, it will go to Ben Bishop, who is retired by now, having 11 on the season. Craig Anderson had 10. Tuukka Rask 10. You guys can see in the sim, goalies really do dominate. I mean, a 931 and 11 shutouts for Ben Bishop, who only is, what, an 86 overall? They must have already had the scoring set on low, and then once they introduced it, it was for it to be raised as much as you want it to be. And here we go. This is our year number 1 Stanley Cup playoff bracket. I like how they have the two conferences in red and blue. I think it adds to this playoff bracket. But we are just going to simulate and see who goes on and ends up winning the Stanley Cup in year number 1. And surprisingly, just like in real life, the St. Louis Blues will go on and defeat the Boston Bruins, this time in 6 games in the Cup Finals in 19. So EA Sports actually getting year number 1 very right to a T. I mean, even the same Stanley Cup Final matchup, it just went one less game. The same outcome happened, though. Beantown Bruins obviously are going into the offseason very, very sad. Bergeron is going to have a dynamite postseason, leading in scoring, 27 points, followed by Marshy, who had 25, also 15 goals. Ryan O'Reilly had 25. Ovi was up there, 11 goals, 23 points. Pasternak had an okay season, or playoff run, I should say. Only 3 goals, but 20 apples for 23 points. And for goalies, Jake Allen was a starting goalie, a 911 save percentage, 16 wins, no shutouts. So far, so good for the Stanley Cup champions. All are accurate. Tyler Seguin will win the Ted Lindsay, Art Ross, and Hart Trophy. The Maurice Richard to Tarasenko, the Norris to Morgan Riley, Calder to Elias Pettersson. Ryan O'Reilly will also win the Conn Smythe, just like he did in real life. Bishop, the Vezina, and the Selke will go to Jordan Stahl, who the Bruins actually picked up, probably, I'd say, at the trade deadline in this season, as we now head into year number 2 with a completely accurate simulation so far. We got the same Stanley Cup final matchup and the same result, so now let's head into year number 2 and see how the simulation does. The Dallas Stars would end up winning the draft lottery. Edmonton came 2nd, Calgary 3rd, and the Islanders 4th. Now, here are the biggest UFAs and free agency. We actually got guys who are free agents in real life in Duchesne and Pavelski. Also, Andres Lee, Gustav Nyquist, Dzingel is there, so not a lot of options for skaters. But I mean, an 89 overall Semyon Varlamov is the free agent goaltender that could help turn around a team for sure. Now, moving on to season number 2, Tampa Bay will be the best team, winning 59 games, followed by the Bruins, who are fresh off of a finals defeat. Chicago was up there. They are an okay team, I guess. Pittsburgh, 145 games. San Jose, Winnipeg at the bottom. Who do we have? The New York Islanders. 27 wins. Ottawa is back. Carolina and the Oilers as well. As finally, McDavid will wake up, 122 points, leading all skaters, followed by Ovi, who had 94. Draisaitl had 91. Stammer was up there. Patrick Laine had a very good season with 38 goals, 84 points. Kuznetsov was good. Tarasenko, McKinnon, the dog, finally waking up, 82 points, point per game at 24 years of age. Speaking of goals, Ovi will lead with 57, followed by Tarasenko, who had 56. McDavid, 51, so a very good year by him. Corey Perry had 40, Laine 38, Kucherov 37, Sagan 37 for D-Man. Ekman Larson and Seth Jones are going to tie at 65 points apiece. Morgan Riley had 62. Hedman also had 62. Carlson, 58. Tuukka Rask will have the most wins at 45, followed by Crawford, who had 42. Luongo was up there with also 6 shutouts, 40 wins. Freddie Anderson at 39, Vasi 39, and for shutouts, the lead would be Tuukka Rask and Martin Jones, each having over 11 apiece. Vasi had 10 and a 926. See what I mean? The goaltenders are absolutely insane in this game. And here we go yet again. This time, it is the bubble Stanley Cup playoff bracket because of the pandemic that did happen in 2020, but let's see who's going to go on and end up winning the Stanley Cup in 2020. And in the Stanley Cup Finals, the Minnesota Wild defeat the Columbus Blue Jackets in Game 7 here in 2020. I mean, this is kind of where we start falling off the rails with the Simulation 2 teams that really will never probably make the Stanley Cup Finals. They're not that good in 2020, but somehow Minnesota, shout out to you guys, going all the way. And this is what I mean by the scoring is down in this game. Borkstrand had the most points at 20, also the most goals at 12 in 25 games in the postseason. Kucherov had 19, Atkinson 19, Marchand was up there, as well as Pierre-Luc Dubois. The boys, who is still on Columbus, of course, making the Stanley Cup Finals. McDavid will take home the Ted Lindsay, Art Ross, and Hart Trophy. The Maurice Richard will go to Ovi. The Norris to Victor Hedman. Dubnyk will win the Conn Smythe, Tuukka Rask, the Vezina, and the Selke to Ryan O'Reilly. The Vancouver Canucks would end up winning the draft lottery, selecting first overall, followed by Ottawa, and then the New York Islanders, who we know are not very good. Zdeno Chara, Chris Kunitz, Ales Hemsky have all retired from the NBA for skaters. For goalies, I mean, Nicholas Backstrom was really the only goaltender. Almost has 200 wins in the NHL, so very impressive. Also a 914 save percentage. Now moving along to the end of the 21 season, Washington would be the best team, winning 51 games, followed by Florida, who actually started to come alive around this time in real life. Buffalo, 147. Tampa Bay was up there. Philly and Boston at the bottom. We do have the Ottawa Senators, the New York Islanders, and the Calgary Flames. McDavid is going to continue to absolutely dominate, leading in goals with 49 and points with 129. Nico Hischier had 93, Eichel 91, Hall was up there, as well as Steven Stamkos. And on the goal side, I mean, McKinnon had 41, Sagan 40, and I guess Tarasenko and Brock Besser both had 40 apiece. Now for defensemen, again, Ekman Larson dominating, 68 on the season, also 22 goals. Riley had 64, Carlson 63. Braden Holtby will lead all goalies and wins with 41, and for shutouts, it will go to Marc-Andre Fleury and also Braden Holtby, as they will both tie at 8 apiece. And here we go yet again with our playoff bracket. This was the back-to-back season for Tampa Bay, winning their second straight Stanley Cup. And surprisingly, the St. Louis Blues actually go on and win another Stanley Cup, their second of the video, beating the Capitals in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. So it looks like St. Louis has kind of turned into a little bit of a Tampa Bay here, as we are in 2021 and they have 2 Stanley Cups to their name. Connor McDavid is going to have a breakout playoff run, 16 goals, 33 points in 19 playoff games. He was good for the Oilers. Obviously, they did end up losing, though. If we take a look at the entire league over this time, McDavid did have the most goals and points. Kuznetsov had the second most with 29. Ovi was up there, 26, Tarasenko, 23, and Jacob Vrana, 10 goals, 10 assists for 20 points in the postseason. Also, I went ahead and I rinsed my mouth with mouthwash, and it really fixed my canker, and I feel so much better talking now, as St. Louis didn't go back-to-back, but do have 2 Stanley Cups in 3 seasons so far. Connor McDavid will take home all the awards. The Norris will go to John Carlson, the Conn Smythe to Jordan Binnington, also Cody Glass to Calder. The Vezina will go to Martin Jones, and the Selke again to Ryan O'Reilly, back-to-back seasons. The Rangers would end up winning the draft lottery, being able to select first overall, followed by Minnesota, who literally won the Stanley Cup last season, and now they have the 2nd overall pick. Jumbo Joe and Mr. Game 7 have both retired from the NHL, as well as Dion Phaneuf. Valtteri Filppula is out of here. Mike Camilleri is gone, and if we take a look at the goalies here, yeah, there's no real... I mean, Antti Niemi, 234 wins, 36 shutouts. He had a pretty good career, I guess. Now, moving along, the St. Louis Blues will end up finishing as the best team in the NHL, winning 50 games, followed by Philly. They were surprisingly very, very good. Buffalo was up there. Pittsburgh was still somewhat in their prime. I mean, 48 wins. Tampa Bay, 146. No Stanley Cup so far. And the Oilers did make the postseason. 47 wins on the season. Now, at the bottom, we do have the Minnesota Wild, the Red Wings, and the Islanders. So Minnesota really fell off a cliff after winning the Stanley Cup. Somehow McDavid continues to get better and better, leading in goals with 60 and points with 136, followed by Stammer, who had 96. So that is a massive gap. McKinnon had 93, Kucherov 89, Giroux 88. Rantanen was up there on the goal side. I mean, Taylor Hall did have 49. Shout out to him at 30 years old. McKinnon had 48, and Tola Vainen had 40. As a 22-year-old in the NHL, I mean, this dude in real life hasn't even arrived, and he has medium elite potential. 89, oh my lord. Justin Falk and Ekman Larsson will tie for the most points by a D-man at 64. And for goalies, Bob is going to lead in wins with 43. For shutouts, it will go to the man who shall not be named, but Tuukka Rask, a 923 save percentage, and Braden Holtby had 10 shutouts himself. Another year, another Stanley Cup playoff bracket here in 22, where the Colorado Avalanche did end up going on and winning the cup. Unfortunately for them, they didn't even make the postseason. So we are going to have a brand new Stanley Cup final winner. And the Vancouver Canucks will go on and win their very first Stanley Cup in franchise history, sweeping the Flyers in the finals. Obviously, this was Colorado and Tampa Bay, but instead we got Philly and Vancouver. Now for the playoffs, Brock Besser will have the most goals at 17 and the most points at 30, tied with Pettersson, who also had 30. McDavid was up there. Lafreniere had a good year. He's only 20 years old. On the Vancouver Canucks, Voracek at 19 and Giroux 16. Connor McDavid is Connor McDavid. The Norris will go to Shane Gostisbehere, the Calder to Lafreniere, the Conn Smythe to Vasi, the Vezina to Matt Murray, and the Selke will go to McDavid. So you mean to tell me that the Vancouver Canucks picked up Andrei Vasilevsky and also have Alex Lafreniere with the #1 overall pick? My God, are they set up to be a dynasty. Patrick Marleau decided to call it a career after 1,903 games. Jason Spetz is out of here. Marian Gaborik, Jason Pominville. Also, Duncan Keith is gone. And if we take a look at the goalies, Ryan Miller. Now, as we are at the end of the 2023 season, the Buffalo Sabres will be the best team, winning 49 games, followed by Philly. Colorado was up there. They had a comeback, as they were not very good for a little bit. Vancouver, who obviously did win the Stanley Cup. Edmonton was up there, as well as the Bruins. And if we take a look at the bottom, we have the Wild, the Red Wings, the Ottawa Senators, and the Anaheim Ducks. McDavid is still getting better season by season. 69 goals, 133 points. Nobody was even remotely close. Steven Stamkos had 92. Kucherov was up there. McKinnon had 84. Patrick Laine, 80. John Tavares, 78. And on the goal side, the next closest would be Patty Kane with 51. Kucherov had 45, Laine 44, and Liston had 42. The man who shall not be named led all goalies in wins with 44, and for shutouts, it will go to Freddie Anderson, who had 10. Also, now on the New Jersey Devils instead of the Carolina Hurricanes. As who will go on in 2023 and take home the Stanley Cup. Now, for the first time in the McDavid era, a year earlier than they did in real life, the Oilers will make the Stanley Cup Finals, and they're going to have to play the Philadelphia Flyers, who surprisingly have been a pretty good team during this sim. Obviously, McDavid finally reaching the mountaintop, but can he get it done here in 2023? And the Oilers, for the first time in the McDavid era, will go on and win the Stanley Cup here in 2023 as they dominated Philly in 5 games in the Stanley Cup Finals. We also have a very different Stanley Cup presentation here than we do in 24. And honestly, this is pretty hype. These players are going mad crazy right now. McDavid's on the team, Draisaitl. We still have Mikko Koskinen as our starter and somehow won the Stanley Cup, which is crazy. But I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. A year earlier than they made the Stanley Cup Finals in real life in 2023, they actually end up winning it. And McDavid, finally a Stanley Cup champion? As this presentation is way longer than the one we have already in 24. And honestly, it's a little bit better. These guys are taking their time, shaking the hands. We get to see all the players shake hands. Where's McDavid? I need to see McDaddy. Where's he at? I guess we're not going to see him, but there he is, coming to accept the Conn Smythe Trophy. 20 goals, 42 points. Surprisingly enough, the same amount that he had in real life, 42 points. One of the best playoff runs in NHL history is now happening in 23 instead of 24. And there it is. Man, this shit is sick. Why did EA Sports change it to what we have now where the confetti gets in the way and I can't even see the guys celebrating? This Stanley Cup final presentation is way better than what we have already. Come on up, Connor McDavid, as you are now a Stanley Cup champion for the very first time in your storied career, as the Edmonton Oilers are your 2022-2023 Stanley Cup champions. Now, funny enough, McDavid will actually have 42 points just like he did in real life in the playoffs this season. Did have 20 goals, which is a much different outcome. One of the best playoff runs all time. Tarasenko had 30, Schwartz was up there, Ryan O'Reilly 25, and Voracek 23. McDavid will take home all the awards yet again. John Klingberg, the Norris, the Calder, the Fortier, the Conn Smythe, also McDavid, Anderson, the Vezina, and the Selke will also go to Connor. Ryan Getzlaf, Corey Perry, and Patrice Bergeron have all retired from the league. Funny enough, Bergeron actually retired in 23, so this is pretty fitting. Miku Koivu's out of here. Paul Stastny is gone. Chris Letang at 36 has decided to call it a career. And for goalies, Corey Crawford, there it is. 338 wins, 35 shutouts, a .918 save percentage, and now he is gone. Now, in the final season of the video, Dallas will be the best team, winning 51 games, followed by Philly. Arizona was surprisingly up there, Calgary, and St. Louis. McDavid is still going to dominate, leading in scoring with 130 points. Tyler Seguin put up 101. Tarasenko was up there with 91. Kucherov and Brock Besser. And on the goals side, Tarasenko will lead with 54 on the season, followed by Johnny T, who had 50. Brock Besser was up there, as well as Connor McDavid for defensemen. Drew Doughty will have the most points at 70 for any D-man. For goalies, Jake Dixon, who is a creative player, had 43 wins. Hellebuck also had 43. And for shutouts, it will go to Jake Allen, having 10 on the year. And finally, we have reached the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs. Here is our bracket, our final bracket of the video. Let's see who goes on and wins the Stanley Cup. And funny enough, the Vegas Golden Knights will go on and get their Stanley Cup, beating Philly in 6 games in the finals. Obviously, in real life, last season they won it, and this year the Oilers should have won it but didn't. Obviously, it went to Florida. Shout out to Florida. But the Vegas Golden Knights will end up winning the Stanley Cup in the final season. In the playoffs, Jonathan Marchessault will have the most points at 23, followed by Cody Glass and Vesalainen. As there it is, every single Stanley Cup winner. Obviously, we missed 2019, which was St. Louis. Then we went to Minnesota, St. Louis again, Vancouver, Edmonton, and then finally the Vegas Golden Knights. McDavid will take home the Ted Lindsay, Art Ross, and Hart Trophy. Vladimir Tarasenko, the Maurice Richard. The Norris will go to Oliver Ekman-Larsson. The Conn Smythe to Soderstrom. Kincaid will win the Vezina, and the Selke will go to McDavid for the 3rd straight season. And that is going to do it for this video. We have gone ahead and simulated up to current day using NHL 19, and we had mixed results. Obviously, St. Louis was a very, very good team. Edmonton got their Stanley Cup. Vegas as well, and we saw Connor McDavid absolutely dominate. Make sure if you guys did enjoy the video to leave some support. I would like to say thank you all for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you would like to see next. And always remember, don't be silly. Wrap your willy.